Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the May meeting of the Oak Hills Park Authority. The first order on the agenda is the call to order. So as I call your name, if you just indicate that you are here. Alan Dutton is here. Denise Brown.
Here.
Jeff Schweitzer.
I'm here.
Mary Verrill.
Here.
Richard Dellinger.
Here.
TJ Trimboli.
Here.
And there are 6 of us. We have a quorum, so we will now go to the third item on the agenda, which is the acceptance of the minutes. Would someone please move to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Rich Dellinger, and have a second, please.
I'll second, but there are corrections.
Yep. The next item is there are now errors and omissions and corrections. If we'd like to make a start, Denise, would you like to make a start?
Sure. So on page 3, under the tennis paragraph, there's a bunch of misspelled words. It said Miss Brown aid. I think it's supposed to be said. That's on the first line. And then arborvitaes are spelled incorrectly. It's, if I got this correctly, ARBORVITAES. Is that right, Jim?
Yes,
Something
it
like
is.
that. Yeah, okay. And then on the third line down, it says some other city trees, but I think it's just supposed to be some other trees. So we'll take city out.
I think they said deciduous and they got city out of deciduous.
Deciduous, yeah, okay, I think you're
whatever.
right. And then is the hitting dog left leg correct, or is it left leg dog, or
Dog leg left.
dog leg left? So that's correct, okay. Those were just some corrections. Thank you.
On page 4, paragraph 3, it said, Mr. Lees asked how the new restaurant policy was working out. Mr. Alexander said that the biggest issue involved and then there's nothing else there. So I can't remember. I don't know, Paul, could you remember?
What was Gary's question again?
Mr. Lees asked how the new restaurant policy was working out. And I think it was based upon the outing.
Yeah.
And Mr. Alexander said that the biggest issue involved
I would say the biggest issue involved would be the discussion of alcohol and what was allowed and what's not. Everything else would be pretty good.
Okay. So the biggest issue involved was the discussion of what the outings could bring and what they couldn't bring, or the re-alcohol. That's fine. On page 5, paragraph 2, it said Mr. Leeds about the insurance. I think you need to put the word asked after the word Mr. Leeds, asked about the insurance. In the third paragraph, it said Mr. Dellinger asked but, and I think he meant asked about. That's on page 5. And that's all I saw. Are there any other errors or omissions on the minutes that anybody saw? Okay, there being none, subject to these changes, could I please, I'll call you now, actually I won't call you name, but could we please have a vote to accept the minutes as they are? Aye.
Aye.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are accepted. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, public participation. James, do we have anybody wishing to participate from the public with their hands up?
No.
Okay, public participation is closed. Let the minutes show that Robert Stowers, authority member, has joined about 7:05. Thank you. Next item on the agenda are item number 5, which are the reports. My report, 3 quick things. We're going to be reviewing the 2026 budget under new business. Mark will take us through it. So please feel free to ask any questions. You did receive advanced copies of what we've been working on. There'll be no vote taken at this meeting. We will take the meeting to approve it in June, which will give anybody any chance to dig a bit deeper or whatever. That's what we will do. Second item, we will be forming what we call a tennis committee, a committee to oversee the contract for the tennis facility is coming towards the end of its 5 years, the end of August. So we will be going out, we will be putting together an RFP. We will be doing what we did similar with the restaurant, to put together a group of people to go through, develop an RFP, working with the city, go out to bid, see what options we have in front of us, meet, discuss them, and then bring a recommendation back to the authority to get this done. The contract runs at the end of August, but there is no real play in the fall and the winter. So I would like to get this done by the end of the year. I would like to chair this particular meeting as I did for the restaurant committee, and we would have Rich Dellinger, Denise Brown, and Robert Stowers, who would bring a lot of help to us from the authority, I think, to work on this committee, with Jim Holliday on board as well to help us organize it. And we'll be setting up meetings as we move further forward on that. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Jim Holliday for entering us into a competition with the Connecticut Magazine. And I would then like to thank the management team and employees of Oak Hills for having us winning the best municipal golf course in Fairfield County. Isn't that good news?
Outstanding.
Very good.
That's really, Jim, thank you for doing that for us. I think this is great. And I think we can use this for marketing, in the restaurant, and everybody involved, management team, employees. But one person I'd really like to call out is Jim Shell, to thank him for the way the course looks, what he's done, the way the course looks now. So pretty good news, guys, huh?
Yes, excellent.
Absolutely.
That's really good. And that's pretty much all I have under chairman's report. Is John Lloyd with us? I don't see John Lloyd here with us, so I guess there is no restaurant report. So next item is Mary Beryl on the Nature Advisory Committee. So Mary, if you'd like to bring us up to date.
Sure. Okay, so we've got we did a lot on the path remediation in the last couple months. We were supposed to have the Cub Scouts come, and they got rained out. So we're trying to figure out when we can get the Cub Scouts in. The idea is, the more families, the more people we get there, and the more we publicize it, the better it is. But we're going to continue to work on the paths. They look much better. We got some new markers on, and everybody's really pitching in very nicely. I'm wondering about the grant. Did we hear anything, Mark, at all on the grant?
Nothing.
Nothing. I'm wondering if we should follow through. I'm not sure. Do you have the information where I could follow through with it and see if there's?
I know I submitted it there with you guys.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check to see what email. I think I got an email confirmation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm happy to follow up, but I think you have all the information. Okay, so the alternative lawn, which we've been working on, is starting to come along. They had to do some remediation because I think it froze or something, and so he redid it, and then he came again this past week and took out some of the invasives, but it's starting to come together and it's starting to look really nice. If you get a chance, the flowers are starting to bloom in it, so it's looking good. So that's nice. The birdhouses that we put up are all occupied, and the grass is coming in, so the meadow is starting to come in. We're working on mugwort remediation throughout the whole area. It seems like we have mugwort everywhere, so we're working on that. It continues. I talked about the meadow. We need to refresh the gravel. We took a look at it and we need to, around the fountain garden, we need to refresh the gravel and the mulch this year. And gonna use some, they call it natural Roundup. It's all natural um, it's like I think it's vinegar and water and some other things that we can put in and try to get rid of some of the weeds in the paths and such. It's looking good. We're working with the, we're continue to work with the Norwalk Garden Club, and they're great. They're great help. Earth Day, we had a, even though it rained on Earth Day, it was we had quite a successful Earth Day. Thank you to everybody who took part, and Alan and Mark and everybody who came and helped. We got a lot of publicity out of that, and we got a lot of really good feedback. So we're going to try to continue to publicize this little gem. We want to do more walks and talks, bird walks, tree walks. We're considering trying to get a hold of what's her name? Sarah Cruz.
Sarah Cruz, yeah.
Cruz. Yeah, we want to try to, you know, tap into Sarah Cruz's expertise with maybe tree identification walk or something in the fall. So we're talking about, you know, doing some real programming with walks and talks and lunch and learns and things like that. Also starting to consider long range. We're the only town, I think I might have said this once before. We're the only town in this area, in this part of Connecticut, that doesn't have a dedicated nature center. So that would be in the long term thoughts and plans and such. So that's something that we're starting to think about. I do have some good news about the possibility of we've got going to have the alternative lawn demonstration. We're also talking about having a food forest, which is a very interesting concept that comes through the permaculture area. And we could put in berry bushes and plum trees and pawpaw trees and things like that. And I'm actually working with a woman, master gardener, who has a connection in with, of all places, in the Bronx, where they supply plants for food forests. And we would have the first in the area to have a food forest, which would be, I think, a great draw. So we've got all kinds of good things happening. Let me see what else. Earth Day, publicity, a grant I talked about, the meadow. That's about it. But yeah, so we're moving forward, and it's looking better every time we go. So that's what I know. Any questions?
Do you have any questions for Mary? Good report, thank you. Next item D on the reports is tennis. Denise.
Good evening, everybody. So the courts are officially open at the tennis center. They opened on Monday. But we've been competing with a lot of rain, obviously. And so I think they've already been rained out one day. they're a little on the soft side. I'm not sure if they're going to get re-rolled out. I'm thinking that that's something that Davis has to come and do, Jim Holiday. Is that what should be happening with the courts, do you think?
I'm not exactly sure, Denise. I'll find out tomorrow. I thought that would have been done in-house, but I'll find out and let you know.
Is
Well,
is
I mean,
Kings
the-
Highway is
There.
Kings Highway occupying the courts yet?
Yep.
Yeah.
'Cause they usually have a guy that does roll them every morning.
They're supposed to, correct. They used to have Davis come and do the courts in the morning. And then last year, possibly the year before, they stopped having Davis come do the courts in the morning, and they've hired one of like their handyman that comes and does things, and I'm not quite sure if he's capable of running the roller. You know, he can sweep the courts and line them, but I don't know if he can actually operate the machine. I don't know. So I don't know if he can do it. So I'm thinking that Davis should be called in to do it, since that probably was part of the setup for the original setup of the courts. So yeah, Jim, if you can make a note of what you can find out about that, that'd be great.
Okay.
So basically, you know, the Friends of Tennis haven't had a chance to meet. We're meeting on Sunday, so we'll have a whole lot more to report. I do know that we're gonna be moving forward for the tournament for art, which is gonna be in September. Thank you, Jim Shell, for getting those trees planted. I see that they're all along the line in the back there, and I saw one of the other trees when I look out of the courts. Would you put 3 trees out on the course?
Yeah, there's
yeah.
three trees on the other side of the pines, which is an attempt to 20 years from now, people will be diverted away from the tennis courts, or at least they're supposed to be.
20 years, will we be here?
Well, that's how long it's going to take to grow. I mean, for what it's worth, they're in.
They're there. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we kind of just put things kind of on hold just for the time being, just till we have our meeting with the Friends of Tennis, and then we'll have a lot more updates. But you know, the fence is completed, which is great, and things, I think, unless Rich, you can think of anything else, I think that basically we're just gonna be, you know, starting the season and rolling along and getting things moving.
Yeah, I just want to mention that Oak Hills has 2 additional men's team in the Fairfield County Tennis League. There was a 2 men's team that used to play out of Long Ridge. Then they went to Wire Mill and Stanford. But there's going to be about, I'd say 75 new men players, and each of the teams that are coming to Oak Hills actually won their division. There's an open division and also a 50-plus team. They're very good teams. So it's going to be a really high level quality men players who'll be coming to Oak Hills this year.
That'll be nice.
Yeah.
Any questions for Denise? Thank you. I see John Lloyd is with us now. So John, would you like to, if you're available, give us a quick update on what's going on in the restaurant? You'd be so kind.
Yes, sir. Hi, everyone.
John?
Hi,
Can
John.
you hear me? Is
We
the
can.
audio
Yes, we can.
okay? Well, it's nice to see everyone. Sorry I'm late today. Let's have a look. So I guess been a very fertile period of business for the Oak Hills restaurant in the last month. You may have noticed a large amount of activity with lots of new staff front and back, lots of private parties, lots of bands, lots of calendar-based special events, and an increase in general golfing throughput, maybe as a consequence of some of the energy that we're plumbing into the space. We will be working on improved signage for the restaurant and its operations on the golf course. Going to be doing clear signaling of halfway house hours, and those hours at the halfway house will be extended during any day where there's a private event in the clubhouse. We'll be installing signage on the course for restaurant pickup. with the help of Steve Shepherd. We're going to be installing, I think maybe tomorrow, restaurants, the hanging pub signs, both on the front and the back of the building, the clubhouse, and clear signage of the band calendar that we have, any special public events that we're running, any restaurant is closed due to private events. We're just going to make it very clear and transparent on our notice board. The concession cart will be expanding its operation from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's going to help supplement the course availability of snacks running until 7 p.m. daily. Our commitment to the tennis court partnership with Kings Highway will continue next week with almost daily deliveries or multiple deliveries a week of light breakfast, which is good to see that partnership continue. The calendar outings have started amicably with clear terms of engagement made and pretty effective collaboration with Oak Hills to present a unified front with regards to the outing program. And we look forward to making a contribution to the outing's enjoyable days. Bands will start playing on the deck weekly now that the weather is cleared. We've had a very good run of bands recently with great attendances. We will be charging a modest performance fee of $5 per person when bands are playing to help offset the costs. We're going to be advertising the bands, and the advertising will be conducted through physical posters in the restaurant, direct email campaigns, and through social media channels. So we will be spreading the word of when the bands are playing. Chris and Barbara in the restaurant have successfully implemented the new restaurant menu with some minor but significant new additions, and they've all been getting rave reviews. But we continue to take on feedback and tweak where the changes are necessary. And similarly, a new raft of menus and price points have been pretty successfully implemented for all the private parties that we're now being faced with. And we're making pretty good investments with listing the space, the restaurant space on listing sites, and it's providing a lot of leads and referrals for us. I think we must have catered close to 10 private events in this month alone, or the last 30 days, and we've got even more booked for the weeks ahead. We're able to provide options for private parties from the modest price point to the lavish, and we're enjoying a huge amount of very positive feedback on Google on our reviews for these. And I believe it's going to be a significant source of business for our future. But it's worth noting that we will honor our commitment to guests during private events to maintain seating for them on the porch with the service and full menu available to them no matter the size of the private party. And on those days, the halfway house and the cart hours will be enhanced to make sure that no one is going to be going hungry or thirsty on the course. Okay, I think that's the end of my notes.
So John, speaking as putting my food and beverage hat on and my operator's hat on, I've been in the predicament that you have, and it's quite a nice predicament to have from a private party point of view, because that's where you make a lot of your money, fixed cost food and beverage and labor and stuff like that. It's great to have it. I'm pleased to hear about the communication aspect of it, because it is very, very difficult to to have a private party and then golfers would like to come and have drinks and possibly a limited menu on the porch. And I'm glad to hear that this is going to be continuing. It's not an easy thing to do, and communication is the key here. I think if people know in advance on a weekly basis, hey, we've got these parties coming up, then they could plan accordingly. As long as golfers can get something to eat, I think that's a great thing, and I'm happy to hear. So, would you say that your business is busier this year compared to the same time last year? I think so, right?
Undoubtedly, yes.
Okay. Well, I see you smiling, so that's always a good thing, So anyway, those are just my comments. Other questions for John?
No, but I have a comment. Today I had 21 members of the Darien Men's Association playing. And what we did, because we were starting at 11 o'clock, which is a challenge for lunch, we pre-ordered sandwiches. working with Barbara, and they were, when I got there this morning at 10:30, they were all made in boxes with the golfers' names on them. And so what they did was, when the members came in to get their tea time squared away, they were directed into the restaurant and pick up a sandwich. And it was flawless, as far as I've heard. You know, it worked out real well. And the food was great. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Jerry.
Great, Jerry. Thank you. Any other comments for John? Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so back to the agenda now. Jerry, you're on supporters of Oak Hills Park.
Well, I don't have a report.
Well, that's okay. You already gave one. We gave one, so
Yeah.
that's fine. It was a pleasure to see you, Jerry. Thank you.
The total in the supporters account is right around $20,000, and I think Denise, 14 of that is for tennis.
Yeah, the total is around 20,900. At minus the 6,000 for the trees, we dropped down to around 14,900.
And then 6,000 in the other funds as well, including general. Perfect.
Correct. Yes. So.
Okay. Item F, long-term planning, Gary Leeds. Gary is not with us tonight, so no real report. Are there any members of the authority who would like to offer anything under long-range planning?
Yeah, I can offer some of the golf long-range planning in terms of what's happened in the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, CJ.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest thing that's happened is the long range planning golf committee and the First Tee and Jim Shell, superintendent, we did a site visit to Oak Hills this week to start to map out some different options for the long range plan. And what we need to do is come up with options to present to the city to figure out what options are possible for us and what options aren't. And so that's where we have to present them probably 2 or 3 options. And I think we have at least 2 good options that we think would make everyone happy and would benefit everything from golf to nature to tennis to restaurant to you name it. So we've got a couple good options and we've got to put those together. And my guess is that probably over the next month to month and a half, we'll be ready to present that to the city to see what that looks like. So that's that's where we are.
That's great, CJ. I also took a ride with Jim Shell just to have a look, to get my hands around exactly what's, and I saw things I'd never seen before, which were great. So I look forward to working with all of us working together to see how we can solve all these issues, and that's great. Thank you for doing that. Any other comments on long range plan?
Yeah, I just TJ, is there a way that we can see it before it gets presented to the city?
Yeah, I mean we're not at that point yet. We probably ultimately are going to need architects and engineers to come in to see if what we even think we can do is possible. But Mary, I can promise you that everything from Oak Hills in the park will be enhanced with the way that we're thinking about it.
Sounds exciting. I'm anxious to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, TJ.
Yeah, nothing's going to get hidden, believe me.
Yeah, TJ, I thought I'd like to look at it too, because there's just different ways of presenting things to the city in terms of what the politics are and that kind of thing. So
yeah, absolutely. We had a
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to that and you helping us with that. We did have what we thought was a really, really positive meeting with the mayor and Tom. And they kind of see this very similarly to the grassroots program.
Yeah.
And they were instrumental in that and very excited about that. And they see this as being almost like that type of thing. So
Okay.
they were,
Okay.
we didn't have it. We left that meeting and we haven't had anything from our perspective where we felt like there's been a no from them, you know, from
Yeah.
that perspective.
Yeah.
Everything has been positive. So, but we're going to keep working on it. And, you know, obviously everybody here will
Mhm.
absolutely know details before things get
Yeah.
moving.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, thanks, Robert.
Mhm.
Any other comments from anybody? Thank you, everybody. Next item G, is golf professional. Paul.
Thank you, Alan. Good evening, everybody. So May is here and the golf season has started. April is a little slow due to the weather. We're still getting a little bit of rain, as you can see, but the golfers are really eager, and I think we're going to have a really good season. Our golf shop hours are now 6 to 6:30 during the week and 5:30 to 6:30 on the weekends. Shop opens very early. We get a lot of, we actually opened it a little earlier this year and closing it a little later, earlier than we have in the past due to demand. But we presently have 9 staff members in the golf shop, 22 outside and outside operations, and I think we're really close to being full up with staff. Our overall staff will be smaller this year, I believe, just by a few people, and which will be good. We really hired one new staff member named Vince Velez. He worked for Jim last year. Great young man. He's got a lot of energy. He's very excited to be here. He loves golf. I think he's going to be a great asset to us. We've done our schedule almost for the whole year in the golf shop, so things are running really smooth. We just had 2 of our college kids return. They've been working for us for 4 years, so they really kind of know what they're doing here, and they're glad to be back. This week we did sell our 50th annual pass, so that is our cap. There are no annual passes available for sale anymore. And we have sold 986 golf memberships since January 1. I believe last meeting we had a month ago, we were at about 750. We've had 2 golf outings so far. Newark Fire Department was here Monday, 118 people. We had Tunnel to Towers, I think, at 139. We have 23 golf outings remaining on the schedule. On May 19th was our only open date due to a cancellation. And we're full up for the rest of the year. And the good news is, you know, we're getting more requests for outings, and we have to say no, which I don't think ever happened in the history of Oak Hills Park before. So there's a lot of demand to play here, especially on the Mondays. The Oak Hill Men's Golf Association, Women's Golf Association, and the 9 Hole are well into their tournament season. We have 9 golf clinics going. All of them have great attendance, and a lot of them are new golfers to the game. And our 4UP software, T-Sheet, and POS is working very well. We're like 99% there, complete with everything. Our staff knows the system well. They're really confident using it. Steve Shelper has been a great help, and our members find it a lot easier booking. We've reduced a lot of paperwork, receipts, and things like that, so it's very streamlined. And the golf shop is fully stocked, probably a little too much maybe, with 2,025 new merchandise. So there's plenty there. And the golf numbers across the country remain really strong. Demand is high for the game of golf, and we're looking forward to another busy 4 months and a great golf season ahead. Thank you.
Any questions for Paul? There being none, thank you, Paul. Next item, item number H, Superintendent James Shell. Jim, you're up.
I was muted. Sorry about that. So everything's good with the course. With the weather we've had, we're catching up pretty slowly with spring practices, but we'll get there. The weather's a little colder than normal anyway, so it kind of fits in the timeline as to when it's supposed to happen, almost. We already touched on the trees. Our staffing numbers are starting to fill out. I have 1 spot left to fill, and it might be with the part-timer, Vinny Velez. We'll see what happens here soon. He's a returning employee from a couple years ago. I like the way he worked. I told Paul he was a good dude, so Paul's got him half the time now. And about the rough, our spring flush is here. Jerry, you probably found out about that today. I mean, I know you're never in the rough, but it's thick, it's growing fast, and we're doing our best to keep up. Any questions? That's my report.
No questions. No questions, but I just want to thank you, Jim, for getting those trees in by the tennis courts and the golf course. Looks great. One more than we expected. And
Thank me in 20 years.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best municipal golf course in Fairfield County, Mr. Shell. Yes, sir. Anything else
All
for Jim?
right. Let's take, we'll take it, right?
We will.
Yeah.
Okay, next item is Mark, our controller. Just a brief report, I'm sure, Mark, about where we are on a month-to-month basis before we get into the new business. Thank you. Take it away, Mark.
Actually, really brief. I was gonna. There's no update to my report, so I was gonna just save my voice for the big presentation that's coming up.
Yes, sir.
The quick version is that April was a pretty good month. Very good month.
Any questions for Mark about April? Looks good, like 40 grand over budget from the bottom line, Mark. Is that what I see that?
I think so, yeah.
Good, we'll spend it. James, General Manager, back from the sunny climes wherever you were, I'm pleased to say.
Thank you, Alan. I will also be brief. The first thing I want to note is that if anybody really reads all my bullet point reports, there were 2 items left over from last month. So full disclosure, there's 2 things. Look like I did them twice. I didn't. I did spend 2 weeks in South Carolina, and a very relaxing vacation with my wife, who's recently retired, and our 30-year-old daughter. And then when I got back, I really haven't stopped working. This little part-time job I took on a couple of years ago is quite filling and fulfilling. But I found that to be specific, my time is really spent. If I look through all these items, 11 of them appear to be management-related meetings, and 11 of them appear to be maintenance. And that's really what I'm doing. I'm talking to people and planning and gathering data to do things differently and fixing stuff. So read at your will, and let's get down to the good stuff tonight. If anybody has any questions, I'm open.
Jim, we appreciate what you do. Any questions for James? Okay. Meeting reports are now closed. Item number 6 on our agenda, old business. Is there any old business to bring before the authority? There being none, we will now go to new business. And the new business of the evening is a draft review of the fiscal year 2026 budget. This is actually in 3 main parts. There's the operating budget, which tells us how much money we make. There is the capital budget that says how much money we're allowed to spend, or how much money we want to spend. There is 2 other things actually. There's debt, what we pay to the city based upon that. And also there is the commercial leases, the money that we spend to buy, to have our carts, and also all the expensive knickknacks that Jim Shell buys to help keep our course in great shape, all the cutter, the mowers and stuff like that. So that is what we'll be going over. Just a brief kind of overview, just to let all the committee members know how the budget process works. So we have a P&L, and that's just basically how much money we take in and what it costs us. And that gives us a number. The number, for example, this particular upcoming year, the budget is to make a profit of $456,000 after we've paid all our bills and taken the money in. So what do we do with that $456,000? Well, $130,000 of it is going to go to the city, because they have a formula whereby they get $2.20 20 cents for every paid round, something like that. So if we do 45,000 rounds, they get about $95,000. We also give them, is it 10% of our total revenue, Mark, or
1%.
Oh, even more. Good job. It's not 10%. They get 1% of our total revenue as well.
Total golf revenue.
Golf revenue paid. And that comes to about $130,000. So of the 456, we give 130 to the city. Then we have what we call leases, commercial debt. It costs us about $500,000 to lease those golf carts over a 5-year period. You know, we can't afford to buy them, so we lease them. So we have to expense about $100,000 a year in actual lease costs for the machines and also for the GPS. That means you can't go out when the course is wet and stuff like that. And that costs us about $180,000 a year in cash to do that. That comes out of the profit. And by the time we have the debt and the leases paid for, that's quite a big chunk of change. And what's left then goes into the capital budget. So for the actual years coming up, our expenses are quite high and our capital budget is high. There's actually a deficit in cash of $230,000. We're going to pay out more than we actually take in, but we have a good cash balance, which Mark will talk about, to be able to cushion that. And, you know, our budgeted numbers are kind of less than what we actually doing this year. So we're also being a bit conservative. That's just a quick overview of what makes up our budget. So with that, Mark, take it away.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here.
And everybody should please feel free to ask any questions at any time.
Yes. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. So we start at the beginning. Our revenue rounds, which is obviously the biggest driver of our business. We started doing, for the last few years, we take an average of the last 4 years revenue rounds, including the current year that we're in with the last few months just putting in budgeted numbers. And we come to a number. And this year we came to an average, looked a little bit low. So we added 1 to 2% additional in there. And then we accounted for, we moved over to 4 up back in December. And there were a few benefits to moving over besides just purely the POS system. One of them is that they only charge 1 trade time. When we're under Golf Now, they charge us 3 trade times. A trade time is simply, instead of paying for the software and hardware, we don't actually exchange. We never paid them a bill. We don't pay them monthly for the POS. We give up revenue. I'm sure you've heard this before, but I'll just explain it so you understand. So 1 trade time is 1 time, right? So in the T sheet. So it's 1 foursome. And so we were giving up 3 trade times, and we're only doing 1 to them now, and we're also doing 1 to Golf Now for being on their website for booking, because that is very advantageous to us. So at the end of the day, we freed up one trade time. That's a lot of rounds. I looked at the trade times that we had for last year, fiscal year ending 24, and it was about 2,400 times. So that was a great number because it's easy to divide by 3. 1/3 of that is 800 rounds. So we moved 800 rounds from non-revenue rounds to revenue rounds, and that came down here, $1.52 million of greens fees. It added about $30,000 to that. So that alone is a great number. And this 4,400 is the remaining amount. That doesn't drive revenue, but it does add to the amount that we repay to the city for our debt. Is there any questions on that? No. And I'll go through each section a little bit, and then I'll kind of pause. So feel free to just collect your thoughts for a little bit. Ask any questions if you disagree or don't understand something.
Do you think that 30,000 number is fairly conservative?
Maybe. I mean, I went by the actuals for last year. So It was based on true data. That and we have a I'll get into the actual the rate per round average. It could be a little higher, it could be a little lower, but it's a solid number. Yep. Next up we have our carts. So carts, as you can see over the last few years, if you look to the left, we did the big cart path paving project at the end of 2021, which falls into FY22. So you'll see there we went up marginally each year, nothing too much. And it looks like we're going to come down just a touch this year. So you know the paving didn't really cause a significant increase in rentals, but to be a little conservative, we're going to stick with 25,100. Seems pretty fair based on the last few years, and we will probably come in over, but it's better to be a little conservative in this area than a little too aggressive, because weather dictates, you know, it it could be a beautiful summer, which would probably cause less cart revenue.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, it was really dry last year.
Yeah.
And that cart will come in handy when we say cart path only, like today.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to really see what it's going to be, but you know, just putting an average number in there. And then the actual the cart revenue per cart round, so the average rate, blended rate that we have from everything, if you look here to the left of the last few years, it's basically 18.556. That's what we budgeted for this year. The amount that's showing up there, it's because it's based on 9 months of data. I think it's skewed. It also showed an uptick in 9-hole and employee carts, which have a lower rate. So it's lowering the overall average. I think we'll actually end the year probably around 18.5. And so the thought is, as Alan mentioned before, we have I think you mentioned this, that we're in our 5th and final year of our cart lease, and Jim Holiday had the foresight to call our provider, Club Car, and ask what his thoughts are for a new lease next year. And he said, due to the uncertainty with the tariffs, I would expect a significant increase. So we don't know what that means yet. We don't know if there will be an increase or not. But for now, we are planning for basically a 50% increase in the cart fleet lease, which is already pretty high, as Alan went over. So in order to help subsidize that, we're going to pass on some of the costs to our players in the form of a $1 increase come January. Now, again, that maybe we won't. If we wind up having a lease that's very similar to this year, I think we can maybe stick with the $20 per round that we charge. But if not, we'll have to raise it $1. And since that's the beauty, the fun of doing a fiscal year budget with calendar year golf season, we'll only see 50% of that, or 6 months, because the rate wouldn't rise until January 2026. So that's why it's going up basically 50%, 50 cents instead of $1. And so our discount ID card memberships, we pretty much plan on selling this 1,200 per year. And I take the current actuals through the end of March. So 9 months from July through March. And we get the actual categories of you know, if it's an adult, junior, senior, etc. And we plug that in, and then to get to the 1,200, just apply that same proportion to get us to 1,200. Then we take that times the current year's rate per category. So if it's an adult resident, adult non-resident, etc., and comes out, it's just all calculated. I'll actually go to the page right here. Can everybody see the change in my screen? Okay. So here's our actuals for this year. Here's putting it into the same categories with the same percentage for the full year, which is basically, it's 1,204 for this year, 1,200 for next year. So it's practically the same, times these rates here, and gets these amounts. Now, you may say, well, come January, we're going to have increases most likely. Yes, and that's considered in here. The offset to that is that we sell a decent amount of memberships after June 30th. It definitely drops off, but there are some. And Paul came up with the idea a year or two ago to sell them at a discount. So I think last year we started selling them at 50% off in July, and we sold quite a few. It was a good idea. But selling at 50%, I added up, and we sold $8,000 to $9,000 worth. That's quite a bit, and so that was 50% would have been double that. And if you look here, if we raise everything $5 per category, which is what we normally do, times 1,200 rounds, that gets you to $6,000. So if we don't account for that discounted sales, we're going to make a budget that's too high, and we're not going to beat it. So I've actually reduced a couple of these categories by 1,000 or two just to account for that additional discounted sales. And it comes out to $182,000. Average round at 1,200 for 1,200 memberships is $151.83 per ID card. And if you come back here, you'll see the $151.83. There's the 1,200 rounds, and sorry, 1,200 memberships. And down here at discount ID cards, there's that $182,200 that we just saw. Any questions on that? Okay, the last thing up here, and just so everyone understands, all these stats up here have a direct impact on our actual revenue over here. So this last one, the golf revenue per round, that's just a blended rate per round of everything: juniors, seniors, residents, non-residents, weekends, weekdays. The current amount shown for the 9 months ending March 31st was $38.79, but just as I said before, it's based on 9 months. That number changes. It's skewed. If you look at the history here of the last few years, 36, 36, 37. I think we're going to end up more in that 36 to 37 range. So we kind of throw out both the budget and reforecast and just add a 1% increase to our FY24 actual of 37.17. That's what that 37.54 is. Okay. And when you do that calculation, you take the 43,707 rounds times that 37.54 and minus our outings, our tournament fees, you get this 1,520,823 of greens fees. And the reason that we reduce it by the tournament fees is because that's counted already in the number of rounds up top. And if we didn't reduce it there, we'd be double dipping. So we went over the ID cards, season passes. Real quick, it's known because we sell those on a calendar basis, and as Paul said, we've already pretty much finished. So I know the amount that's for this year, which means I know the first 6 months of this upcoming fiscal year, July through December. And I took that same amount and just added 5% increase at 6 months for the remaining second half of the FY26 fiscal year. And that came out to 107,340. Okay, and this cart revenue here, as you can see, is just it's just taken the 100 cart rentals times the $19. Okay, and gift cards and the gift card redemption, it almost, clears out. So I'm not going to spend any time on that.
Mark, I have a question.
Yes.
So for the tournament fees.
Yes.
So you're averaging, that figure is based on all the tournaments that are booked on the Mondays through what Paul has booked for this, for the summer and the fall? Is
yes.
That? Okay.
Yes, and looking at this, it's probably a touch low, to be honest, but if you watch the screen, if I say $150,000, if you look at the greens fees line above it, it changes because it's all coming already. It's all calculated above. So it'll probably come in a touch because we're raising $5 per head. It might be a little bit higher than that, but I was just a little conservative, basically keeping it just around what we were at, what we expect for this current year.
So if the tournament gets rained out, obviously that would change.
Yes, that would change. And if somebody cancels completely, we had many meetings on outings in general over the winter, and I did some analysis, and what we saw is that if we have a Monday that we don't have an outing and we advertise it, and of course if the weather is decent, we can make as much or more than an outing. Now if the weather is a little iffy and we don't advertise it, we will make less. So as long as we get the word out to everyone that we're open for Monday, losing an outing really won't be that bad in regard to the number of people coming to the course.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, tennis revenue. We are in the final year of a 5-year lease with Kings Highway, and the way that it works is we recognize May through September as tennis revenue. So that's 5 months, and 2 of those months, May and June, are in one fiscal year. The next 3 are in the other fiscal year. So I know the first 3 months of FY26 because it's locked in. We have a contract. And in our discussions, when I was building this, we discussed and decided to add $3,000. Sorry, so it's $49,000 for this year, and we expect $52,000 for next year, although that is just an estimate. So $52,000 at 2 months added to 3 months of $49,000 gets you $50,200.
Except, Mark, it's actually just 4 months.
I know we've always kind of counted it as we've counted May and September, but I didn't want to change the methodology because we've also discussed maybe keeping it open and charging for September as well. So we can talk about that if we want to maybe change it, but I haven't so far.
Okay.
Okay, rental income is our front entrance house. It's just a tenant that lives there, and we charge $2,000 per month. So that's $24,000. Investment income. So here I just took, this is the excess money that we have sitting in different money markets and CDs. And with rates coming down, I took a 3.9% rate at the money sitting in there. So it depends on, as Alan mentioned before, at the end of the day, if we wind up really decreasing our cash, some of this will go down. I've stuck with 19,500, which is a little bit lower than what we expect for this year. Depends on the timing. It could be a little bit lower, could be a little bit higher. I'm going to stick with it now unless anybody has a different opinion on it. And we don't know where rates are going to go. I don't know. But if rates drop, then we'll come in under budget. If rates stay the same or go up and we don't spend as much money, we'll come in over budget. Miscellaneous income, you see that there's a large drop here, and that's because GolfNow, part of the agreement that we had with them, we split 50-50 with GolfNow online bookings by non-members. So if you weren't a member and you booked online, you would charge $2.50, and we split that 50-50. We did not want it. We didn't ask for it. It was simply part of the deal. I know that it really upset some of our players. So even though it's a loss on revenue, I'm actually happy to see it go. I don't think we need to make money that way. I actually have a friend who plays here just 5 times a year, and he refuses to book online for the $2.50 out of principle. So I don't blame him.
So the loss of miscellaneous income is made up for by the increase in rounds because we were able to get that extra.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And here, so the restaurant revenue from Odin's, the agreement is split in two ways: is fixed and variable income. There's fixed rent for the entirety of FY26 of $2,000 a month, so that's $24,000 there. And then it's 6.7% revenue share on basically net food sales for the first 9 months or 3 quarters. And then on April 1st was the original date of the agreement. That's why that's when it renews. It goes up to 8.4%. So based on a $400,000 expected profit, again, just for net food sales.
Not profit, revenue.
Sorry, net. Yes, you are right. Thank you. We took 300,000 of that for the first 3 quarters at 6.7% and 100,000 for the last quarter at 8.4%. And that comes out to the 52.5. Okay. Any questions at all on revenue before I move on to expense?
I think the restaurant income will go up a bit, but let's just leave it as it is because, that's fine.
Well, I'm sorry, say it again.
I think the restaurant income will go up based on what John's been saying, but I think let's just leave it like it is so we can look better.
Yeah, because we're coming in under budget this year. I'd rather be a little bit, and it's a big jump here. Yeah, I'd like to keep it where it is.
Yep.
Okay. So here, management salary is what it says is manager's salary. It also does include my part-time assistant in there, and that's just adjusted for cost of living expenses. Operations, Jim Holiday and I sat with Paul, and we noticed that I got to give Paul credit. He's very good at if it's raining out, he'll send the guys home, and he has Tom Sacco is basically his sergeant in the field there, overlooking all the staff, and he looks at time cards, Tom, and make sure nobody's kind of coming in too early. So they have their finger on the pulse. I think it's very well done, and yet he was coming in over budget each month. So to me, that means the budget was a little bit too low. So we did a little calculation of how much he was coming in under, and raised that for next year. So we think this should be good, and if it's not, it should be right about there. Course personnel, this looks like a large increase, but if you look at the actual budget, it's not that big. Jim had several staffing issues this year, including all three of his full-time people. So the numbers are a little bit lower than where they should be. He lost some definite staff time. And so this year is kind of making things right with both hourly rates and a number of people on staff and number of hours. And so
if we remember in Jim's area that we had the issues of our mechanic, basically that position, we were paying way less than market rate. I mean, the current mechanic we had, I think, was making whatever he's making. He went to make $105,000 at a private club in that same position, almost doubled his salary. And also the foreman's position, we had an employee was with us, so many years. He left because the benefits weren't as good. They could benefits, so adjustments had to be made on the course personnel side, and it is reflected here. And this is close to market rate or whatever. So this is what we have to do to be able to staff our greens area, green superintendent area.
Yeah. And then the second part of wages is the benefits. So payroll tax is just FICA. It's just a 7.65% based on total payroll. But we do have one employee who's on this call who is technically a contractor, not an employee. So we pay with 1099. So we do not withhold any federal, state taxes or FICA. So that's why it always comes a little bit lower. So I just reduced it by a couple $1,000s. You'll see here too, we're going to come in under our budget there. So I'm trying to address that. We'll see how the next year goes. State unemployment during COVID and for the year afterwards, as you can see here, FY22 started July 1st, 21. It was really high then. A lot of people on unemployment. It's continued to come down here. So I'm going basically with the same as our current year. Obviously, if more people go on unemployment, it can go up. But generally speaking, I think we'll be safe with that amount. Health insurance, the quick version is we are trying to get onto the City of Norwalk's plan. Both Jim and Alan have spoken to people. It is a work in progress. We hope to get there. So what I normally do is we know the actuals amount because the policy period it renews every April 1st. So we know what we have for the first 9 months of FY26 because we're locked in. The only difference there is that if we have people either fall off or join the health insurance coverage, then that number can go up and down regardless of what we budget. But usually I plan for like a 6 to 8% increase. I have not planned for that at all because we expect the city plan to be not only better for our employees, but a little bit cheaper for us as well, which is great all over. So I'm just trying to be a little conservative by I'm not reducing what we expected. So if we change over to the city's plan sooner rather than later, we'll probably come in under budget. And if we don't change at all, we'll probably come in over budget. So
there is exposure here. The authority members need to know that this is just for 2 employees, okay? The eligible employees that can have healthcare, there's about 6 employees, maybe 7, I'm not sure, that are eligible for healthcare. But because of good fortune or spousal coverage or whatever, they don't take it. So, we are exposed basically. And I am hopefully working with the city to try and see if we can get on their plan. So we'll keep at it.
Workers' comp. We had some bad luck a couple years ago. We had several claims go in, and then the Hartford dropped us, so rates went up to the roof. It generally seems like it's coming down now. So I just, you see last year was 16.3. This year we expect 17,000. So I put it 17.5. Obviously, and hopefully this doesn't happen, but if there are some accidents and there's some workers' comp claims, that number will go up and will come in over budget. It's impossible to foretell. And retirement plans are just the company's 2% match to the employees' 457B retirement plans. So any questions on the wages and benefits area?
Mark, was the employee from Jim who is injured, was that a work injury?
It just happened today. I didn't even know he was an employee. You have to ask Jim.
Yes, it was.
It was a work injury. Okay, so we don't know yet.
We don't know. Jim or Jim Holiday, is a workers' comp claim expected?
Unknown.
You have to wait, guys. You don't know
3
about
days.
these things. It's healthcare. It's whatever it is, and it may add to our experience, may not. You just have to wait. Too early to say, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on salaries? Okay, so there are 2 items here you can see on my screen now that are in yellow, and that's because there are different numbers than what I sent out. I gave Alan a heads up earlier today, but these are very small amounts, very small. But I just found I had missed 1 or 2 numbers, so the expenses went up in both of these categories. But again, the liability insurance it was about $4,000, and this was not even $1,000. But basically, this telephone is just it's all of our current monthly expenses. And then with the ones that go directly to Optimum, I just added in a 10% increase because they always find ways to increase the bill. Professional fees is audit and legal. That's pretty spot on number. Advertising came from Jim. We actually have a savings here because we were the other part of the 4UP implementation that was advantageous is we paid one-to-one marketing, which is owned by 4UP, about $2,600 a quarter, so a little over $10,000 per year for web hosting, emails, and SEO marketing. Okay, and that's now gone. It's part of what we get. So we didn't lose any of those features. We simply get it as part of being on their POS platform. It's fantastic. But Jim has some ideas about some advertising, social media, putting some signs around town. So that's what that 7,000 is for. I'm going to keep moving on fast so we don't take too long here. Office expense, that's where the one-to-one marketing savings is. That's why you see it come down a little bit. Other than that, it's all the office supplies, software, and our employee day, as well as the $3,000 for Cintas has a safety maintenance schedule that we get billed on monthly, I think. Okay, moving on to credit card fees. This is just a calculation. It just basically takes our reforecast number times the difference in our FY26 budgeted golf revenue compared to that. And I think we're going down 1.2%. So that's why you see this number go down a little bit. Just a calculation. There could also be a mix of more people paying with cash, less people paying with cash. Can't control it. So we just do the calculation. Training and dues is any of our managers that have membership dues would cover that. And then Jim, Shell, usually him, his assistant, possibly mechanic will go to certain training classes. Obviously not a big number. Meals and entertainment. This authority, Secretary of Services at Telesco, they're the minute takers. And that number is pretty consistent. Other outside services is the company paychecks to process our payroll. That's all that is. And it's set rates by how many headcount we have. Other administrative is the sewer tax bill for the city of Norwalk. That's basically what it is, and it's based on our meter reading once per year. It also is just a catch-all for any type of documentation fees, late fees, property taxes, etc. And lastly, utilities. Now this one, just so you guys know, some of you already know, Jim Holiday and I called Eversource because I noticed a charge for FMCC, federally mandated congestion charge, was astronomically increased over the last year. And so we called and asked what that was, and they said basically, and this is good for you to know as well on your personal bills. You've been getting this as well if you have Eversource. Basically, the federal government mandated certain charges that they pay, but they prevented them from passing those costs on to us, the consumers. So they're basically eating that entire expense for several years. The government then said from July 2024 through April of 2025, you're able to pass those charges on to your consumers, which they did. And that's why they really jacked up those rates. And as you can look at the difference between our budget and our reforecast here, that's not a small increase. That's a huge increase there. So it just went away. Now we're in May. We should see billing for the next bills that come in should be reduced. However, they're not going back to the amount they had before. It'll still be higher. And I think the rates also generally went up slightly. So we're not going to see 56,400 again, but I think that 66 is a good in-between number. And it was based on actuals minus a 4% decrease. Okay, any questions on admin? Okay. So liability insurance. This year also changed. That was simply, I had the number wrong. I don't know where I got it from, but it took the big general insurance package was under by about $4,000 for the entire year. So it's not much, but basically we have that plus pollution and cyber, adding in a 8% increase for the remaining 4 months because that's a March 1st renewal policy period. So we know what we're paying through March for the first 9 months. Sorry, 8 months. No, that's 9 months. No, that's 8 months. Sorry. And then putting an 8% increase on that general policy for the remaining 4 months. We also agreed, we added in $1,800 because the number just looked too low. If you look in the historically here, so I think that is a much more realistic number now. So we will see the numbers that Alan mentioned earlier will be about $4,000 to $5,000 lower net income based on these two. And that's the only change between what I sent out to everyone and what we're looking at today. Interest is all of our commercial debt interest. The way it works is just like your mortgage. When we enter into a new finance agreement, we pay more interest up front and then more principal as you get into the later years of the 5-year agreement. And during this current year, we had several new big ticket items. And that's why we're seeing more interest this year, and that will continue into next year. However, next year we only have one new, I think actually technically two purchases, but they're not that big. And we have everything else is getting, higher principal, lower interest payments, and some things are falling off altogether. So that's why it's basically the same as this current year. Slight, yeah, right there. Okay, moving on. Sales and operations is Paul's area. This Golf Genius is they just raised us, so this is an actual amount that we should expect, and I hope they don't raise us again. But I brought this up before. I think we do have to have discussions offline where I would like to see some of this cost passed on to mostly the men's association, but some of the women's association as well, because it's used specifically for them, and we're bearing the brunt of the entire amount. It's not much, so charging through a percentage, I think that's very fair to all parties. And otherwise, Paul's Golf Pro Supplies, that's stuff like pencils, scorecards, cart waivers. 4,500 is in line with the last few years. Paul asked for a little bit higher with work clothes because he likes to have everyone have a couple of good shirts, some hats, and so forth. Looks like he's going to come in a little under this year, so we kept it at 4,000. Probably coming a little bit under as well. Any questions before I move on? Okay. Oh. Okay, so these next two sections, park maintenance and park equipment, are Jim Shell's area, and part of that is also Jim Holiday's. But these numbers basically came from Jim, with the exception of nature and open space, where Alan and I had a discussion, and he asked to double it from the 4,000 because just we've got some more momentum there, and as part of the long-term plan, there's a lot going on, as you heard Mary say. But I do want to just point out that both Mary and Audrey, with their connections, they have people coming in from the garden club, and a lot of people volunteering their time, some bulbs for free, discounted stuff. So we're definitely we're putting a lot in for very little money. So with this 8,000, we might be able to actually get some good stuff done. Everything else, especially water. Look at the variation over the years. You can never ever budget the proper amount for water. If it's dry, we're going to pay more. If it's wet, we're going to pay less. That's simple. Everything else.
So, Michael, just hang on. So, what's
Yep.
one of the reasons we get the capital budget? You'll see a water pump basically for $40,000, and that may give us the opportunity to, as I'll talk about during the capital budget, to get some more water from the ground, which may reduce this bill a bit. So there could be some payoff because of that. Just so we know.
100%. 100%. Everything else is pretty much in line with prior numbers, prior years, I should say. The only thing that you see down here is building maintenance, and you'll see obviously there was an uptick back last year's actual 24, and then this year even more. So I blame Jim Holiday.
Me too.
He's waving. No, Jim knows he really we've had a combination of we have old structures, okay, and with that things break or need repairs and just maintenance, including, I could tell you, I don't know how many times I've come in to see plumbers, HVAC, electrician, like what's going on now. So there's a lot to do to upkeep this. And don't forget, this year at the beginning of the year we paid $9,000 for the maintenance building roof. That was not capitalized. That was not CapEx. That was actually just considered repairs. So this 83,000 is hopefully a one-off thing. Both Jims and I discussed and think that 45,000 will be adequate for this year.
Yeah, there were definitely a couple of items that we were looking to capitalize possibly, but they weren't capital; they were more operational. So we knew we were going to go over budget. But we were having even with these with these numbers of $83,000, we're still over budget profit by about $80,000 to $90,000. So we were able to eat it and still look good. So that's okay.
Agreed. Any questions on the park maintenance and equipment areas?
It's a big chunk of change, guys. It's obviously in the grand scheme of things, it's not, Jim Shell. I understand that, but for us, it's seven, almost 3, 7, 5, 7. It's like $620,000 of our revenue of 220. So it's a third. So it's a good chunk.
Okay.
But we made the top rating for Fairfield County.
Yes, we did. Okay, so here, the last section of operating income is our cart expense. So keep in mind that the cart fleet and the GPS units are considered capital leases now. Back when I first started, they were operating leases, so they were part of the P&L here, but now they go on the balance sheet as fixed assets, which is why you don't see anything here for these last few years.
But it still costs us cash.
Oh yeah. But this, and so as fixed assets, you'll see the expense is still here. It's coming through as depreciation expense. That's how you see that here on the P&L. The cart lease, that's just property tax we get for the cart fleet each year. Electricity, again, this year you see it jumping up a bit more, and that is partially because of that FMCC, the federally mandated congestion charge. So I expect it to go down a little bit because of that. because of the congestion charge being reduced now. And also, we're in the last year of our cart fleet, so for this calendar year, we'll have them all. But starting next, in the beginning of 2026, we will have a new fleet, which I will hope will be even more, technologically upgraded. And we have these lithium batteries that are supposed to draw less electricity. So we should see, hopefully, it go down closer to what we were looking at here several years ago, 14, 15,000. But again, it's only certain months will be there. So I'm hoping we come in under budget, not quite sure. Okay, maintenance on the carts. It's obviously we're going into the last year. You're going to see an uptick there, and cart insurance doesn't move. Any question on carts?
So the car insurance isn't included in our liability in our other insurance, right, Mark?
It is.
Separate just for the...
You would have to add it to that to get your the full bill. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now we get down to the cash effect stuff that Alan started off this with. So here, the first line is the debt service principal. That comes directly from commercial debt. So
we just one time. So if we look at actually how much money operational net income, this is what we're putting in our pocket, ladies and gentlemen. So if you read across 23, we 691,000, 24, 607,000. Now all these numbers are, there's budget, there's forecast. We're forecasting 546,000 this year, and we're budgeting 456. So compared to what we're actually going to be doing this year, we're budgeting 100,000 less. So it is what it is. It's a good thing for it to be conservative. But this is the actual money we can put in our pocket before we do anything with it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So I'm just going to jump to the commercial debt real quick. Okay, can everyone see the change on my screen? Okay. So this highlighted column, FY26, you'll see some stuff falling off at the top, and only these two in yellow here are the only purchases that we're expecting from March of 2026. Now this down here, as you see, these are the 50% increases that I'm expecting. The cart fleet and the GPS units, but only for half the year, right? Because it's on again, off again. So we pay 6 months and then we don't pay anything for 6 months. And 3 of those months fall into 1 year, 1 fiscal year, and 3 fall into the next fiscal year. So we're still paying what we know for our current lease for July, August, and September of 2025, which is the beginning of 2026. So the 50% increases are only for the final 3 months of that fiscal year that will start in 2026. And that,
so this is the commercial debt. This shows us the 2 fairway mowers, the green mowers, the sidewinders, the rotary mowers, all these things that are expensive that we buy, $83,000 worth of gym stuff. But then the really big items are the carts. They're $100,000 at the moment. They were $96,000 for the GPS units and for the cart fleet, and that's going to go up quite substantially. So this is a big number. It's a cash number, right, Mark? So what we pay out. Basically.
Yeah, these are the principal only numbers. It doesn't include the interest that I was mentioning before.
Right, interest we've got in there. So it's a significant amount of money basically that comes out of the profit basically.
Yeah. And just so you know, and this is just an estimate here. It's never going to be spot on because these numbers up here are all straight lined, and as I mentioned, it works more like a mortgage where each year you'd see more and more principal being paid and less interest, and that's not reflected here because I'm never going to know what that amount is. The different rates all the time. So it just for ease, it's straight line. So it's just a placeholder. But you see this 216,213 back here. Is right here. That's the number. So, and as Alan mentioned, so this isn't part of the P&L, but it is a cash effect. That is actual money being paid out. Same thing here for the restructured debt to the city of Norwalk. 130 comes from, it's going up to $2.25 per round. And that's for all the revenue rounds, and about 75% of the not what we consider non-revenue rounds we still pay for. All of the season pass holder rounds, which we call non-revenue, the city still gets paid on that. And then it also included that 1% payment of last year. So the reforecast golf revenue, and that comes out to 130.
And Mark, I have a question. If you think that the cart's going to go up that much, and I hope they don't, because it really is a lot. Tariffs maybe won't be so bad, but a dollar might not do it. If you raise it $2, it's based on
I
what we do with carts.
actually did the math, and it will, because if we do the 25,100 rounds, it'll be $25,100 that we would go up, and that covers the.
If you went $2, it'd be 50 grand. Then
Yes, but I don't think we would do that in 1 year anyway. The calculation I showed, we still are able to cope without passing $2 on.
Yeah, I think we could have it up our sleeve if we have to, depending on what happens. I think, you know. And also, don't forget, you know, we're only starting to see that in this coming year. So I think we assess it. If we do the dollar, if we are really increased that much, we do the dollar in 2026. If it looks like we're losing, we could do that extra dollar in 2027. A $2 raise in 1 year, I think. I don't know. I think a little aggressive. I think that's appropriate. I agree.
Okay, so the 130, just like the 216, is cash effect, but not really on the P&L. Depreciation is depreciation on fixed assets. It's just an estimate. I only do it at the end of each fiscal year, so it's impossible to put a real number in here. But based on prior activity, 415 looks good to me. And capital projects, 344. So that was sent out as well. So the first run of this had a bit more. And I'll let Alan explain why it's coming down after this as part of the next section of this meeting when we have a discussion on current year CapEx. But at the end of the day, as you can see here, the big driver is the bunker project, and that's locked in. So, you know, when you have something that large, there's no getting away from it. Cart path repairs, we talked about, we left it in here. If this summer goes poorly, rain, catastrophe, or whatever, we will yank that right out and push that to the future. As Alan mentioned, the water well, 40,000, that is a good investment because it leaves us less dependent on the city of Norwalk, which costs us money. And if we're able to water even just a bit more for Jim from our own resources, it's just more self-sufficient and will save us a few bucks in the future. Everything else is pretty minor, but are there any questions on these capital projects?
I'm going to highlight a couple of things when Mark's finished, just to go over the capital for the upcoming year and what we think we can do with maybe pushing some of it already done into this year. We've done so well, but that will be it when Mark is finished.
Yeah, and if you see my notes here, I do actually have that the push to 2025. So there's a few things that I left on here purposely so we can see it, but you'll see that there's no future payment because we're going to try to get it done. Okay. So at the end of the day, still a positive net income. And, you know, when I first started here in 2017, these numbers were much, much lower. This net income would have been our net operating income, which was the 450 above.
So Mark, let me ask you, how can there be positive net income when we have to pay $216,000 in capital leases? We have to pay $130,000 for restricted debt, and we're going to pay $344 for
easy.
Yeah,
easy, because those are cash effect items, but they're on the balance sheet. They're not in the P&L. Those are only on here for budgeting purposes. But all we're taking is the net operating income of 450. The only thing on here that's a true P&L item expense is depreciation. So that's the calculation.
Okay.
Sorry, and this capital contribution gives it another 20,000. And sorry, the capital contribution is anything we get from the supporters, basically. or if we get a grant as well. If we get something capital, right? So a capital improvement that was paid for someone other than us, it comes here. So we have to show it basically as income.
Okay.
It's almost like contribution, you know,
So that would be
But-
related to golf,
to golf.
the capital contribution from the supporters?
It would be anything that they've paid for capital wise on our behalf. So the fences at the tennis that we just did,
Uh-huh.
and I forget what we did at the beginning of the year, but that's where the 62,000 comes from. That's just an estimate, but that would be the full amount that was paid for, and I guess also the grant from the USTA. So that would technically, that was paid for someone other than us, and we
Mhm.
benefited for it. So
Right.
that full amount of the fencing would be in here.
But it's not in there right now, or is it? Is that part of the 62?
The 62 was just an estimate in my head. I'd have to go I have to do it. Before the end of the year, I go through the entire supporters expenditures and look at what it is and then add it to our books. And I have no idea what next year is going to hold. So I put 20,000 in there, but if anyone has any inside information, that can go up or down. Don't know. Anyway, at the end of the day, we're sitting here at 239, 955 negative cash effect, as Alan mentioned, because of the debt, the commercial debt, because of the restructured debt to the city of Norwalk and our capital improvements.
And are you concerned about that at all, Mark, or do you think we're okay with it? I mean, when you say 239, then how much cash do you think we'll have? You mentioned a number of 800,000, I think, at one point. Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go to the summary here. Am I concerned about it? No, but I'm conscious that it will definitely impact our numbers. It's going to impact our cash balance. What I will say is that my last estimate at the end of March put us at this basically $850,000 expected June 30th, 2025 a cash balance. So starting off the year with that. So when you add the cash effect to that, it takes us down to this basically $610,000. So at the end of the day, we're still at 610,000, and we've gotten the bunkers done.
Right.
We've also gotten a lot of cart paths done. So
Right.
so in my mind, that frees us up for FY27 to possibly have a very light capital budget,
Correct.
and then build up that cash balance again.
Correct.
Or at least have, you know what, it's time to finally spend that 50,000 on something. We'll have the room that we just, with the bunker project, we just don't have that. You know, it's large figures.
Yep.
Mark, I'm sorry, where are you with 610?
So if you look at these two,
Oh,
restricted and unrestricted. And again, the
Okay.
restricted is just the capital reserve. It's part of our, it's written into the lease with the city of Norwalk when we restructured everything in 2019. It's because we had a history of not making enough money and not being able to pay the city back. And on top of it, say, can you please either give us money or loan us money to pay for this and pay for that? And I thought it was very smart on their behalf to say, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to forgive interest, but going forward, you have to build up your own reserves that sit there for a rainy day. When you say the boiler just went, we don't have any money. Can you loan us? No. Now you can borrow it from yourself, and that's what that is. So technically, we can use that because we are going up high this year. We can use part of that balance to pay for some of these capital improvements, but that's a discussion for a different day.
Mark, I just want to thank you. I went through this with Mark on Monday. And then I just have a question really for Jim Shell or Jim Holiday. As I was driving out of the park, I see that split rail fence along the driveway coming in, and it's in pretty bad shape. And for being such an honor to be the best public course anyway, that split rail fence could be upgraded within this budget somehow.
It is old. Did you
Yeah,
notice
but
any,
it
did you
really
notice
looks
any
ratty.
missing, any
Yeah.
missing rails?
does it need to be there?
Well, it's kind of a discouragement for keeping people to drive right out on the course, which is more frequent than you think. but-
Yeah, keep the fence.
Yeah, I don't know how expensive it is to replace it. It could be another year. It just kind of bothered me going out, and I forgot about it. But I noticed it going out, and it's not in great shape.
Right. Agreed.
I'm losing my voice. I won't say much more.
That's not the only spot, believe me.
So Mark, thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
Does any authority member have any questions about what we've spoken about so far? There is an opportunity for you to, study it further, look at the numbers, get back to Mark, express any concerns. We will be taking this document or probably a condensed version of it, and at the next meeting voting on the capital budget and the operating budget to make it formal for the next fiscal year. There was just one other item I just wanted to bring to your attention, and it's talking about the capital budgets. So Mark, if you could just put the 2026 capital projects up again, just for people to see.
Yeah.
So just the capital, yeah, that's it, yeah. So there are some items that haven't been included in the 2026 that I think that we could get done within the next 2 months. We're having a great year. We're like $100,000 ahead of profit. I'll just mention the three of the items. The screens for the patio for $13,000. The other $5,000, this is a item, under restaurant. That's to work on a lot of the granite flagstones there, just to get them regrouted and stuff like that. That's $5,000. We were looking at the new roof on the halfway house that needs to get done, and also a hot water heater in the rental house. These are items that we were going to do in 2026, but I'm proposing if those items, which come to approximately about $30,000, that we could authorize for the capital budget for 2025 to be increased by $30,000 to get these things done within the next 2 months. I think it would be good for us and would help us. So I am proposing that we increase our capital budget by $30,000 in this fiscal year 2025. Do I have a seconder?
Wait,
I'll second.
I'm sorry. Before you actually vote, I just want to say one thing, Alan.
Yes.
Just keep in mind also that for the last 2 fiscal years, ending 23 and 24, that we came in over budget on our net operating income. So we made more than we had expected, and we came in under budget on our CapEx spend. So keep that in mind, that this is certainly over the course of 3 years, this averages out to no overspend.
Okay. But I just need the approval to be able to do this for $30,000, Mark. Thank you. Yep. So Rich, are you seconding this motion?
I'll second the motion, sure.
How about some discussion? Any ideas, any pros, any cons, any ideas? Anybody? I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No, so, but the only thing is that the 70,000 is a question mark.
Well, the 70,000 is currently will be in the 2026, and that is for the cart paths. But what I believe we will do with the 70,000 is we will leave that till, towards the end. And if we find that we're having a bad year, then we will either reduce the scope or we won't do it. So we do have flexibility on these capital projects for 2026. The well could be, I think the well and the cart, we're definitely doing the bunkers, that goes without saying. But I think the car paths first, and then the well could be in play if we don't find out we're not having a good year. I agree, Denise, yeah. So I believe the motion is carried that we will increase our capital spend up to $30,000 for this 2025. Thank you, everybody. And anything else on the new business? Item 8 on the agenda is adjournment. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a proposer? Denise, do we have a seconder?
Second.
Robert, second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Say aye. Thank you all very
Yep.
much.
Good
for
night.
the
Good
meeting.
job, Mark.
Thank you,
Mark.
everybody.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
job.
Yep,
Thank
good
you.
job.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.